Good day, everyone. So I hope you're all doing well despite the weather conditions. Our topic for today is the neurologic physical examination. But first, what are the tools we need in order to perform a full neurologic exam? So let's look at them one by one, starting from the right. This is your Jaeger chart or your near vision chart. So hindi natin uulitin kung paano nagkukuha ng proper visual acuity na discuss natin siya sa physical examination of the eye. Next, this is the tongue depressor. Binabali natin siya into two. In order to have a sharp end and a blunt end, we use it to test for the patient's sensation. Ano nga ulit yung mga pathways doon, di ba? The spinothalamic tract and the dorsal column medial lemniscal pathway. Next, we have a key and a coin. Ginagamit natin siya for mental status examination. And mamaya makikita natin how we could use it to test for the higher cortical functions. This is a pen light to test for the pupillary reaction to light. And this is an otoscope to test for cranial nerve 8. And this is an ophthalmoscope in order to test for the optic nerve or cranial nerve 2. This is an opaque vial containing the various odorants and substances for taste. So odorants in order to test for the olfactory nerve or cranial nerve 1, and yung other substances naman for taste includes sugar and salt. So this is a tuning fork. May function siya both for vibration sense, yung dorsal column medial lemniscal pathway if you would remember, as well as for hearing, diba? Whether bone conduction or air conduction. This is a reflex hammer for testing the various reflexes, and of course, hindi mawawala ang ating stethoscope. Kasi hindi naman porket nag-focus ka sa neurologic exam, hindi mo na-test yung other systems of the body. So you have to look at the patient as a whole. So this is just a list specifying the different tools. No? So the opaque containers, they contain coffee or cigarette para ipaamoy, and sugar and salt para ipatikim. Today, we're going to learn about how to do the full neuro exam. So, some aspects of this, marunong na tayo, no? So, history taking, na-discuss na yan ni Dr. Lin Tao. So, yung focus natin ngayon ay dalawa. The mental status exam, including the higher cortical functions, as well as testing for the different cranial nerves. So, yung cranial nerves, kung makita nyo here, I have divided it into various types, no? So, meron yung pure sensory, those related to the eyes, yung mga mixed cranial nerves. In other words, meron siyang mixed motor component as well as a sensory component. Lastly, cranial nerves 10 and 12. So ito ng motor and sensory as well as meningeal, na-discuss na natin to, di ba? Last week under the MSK system. So let's go to the mental status exam. Let's start with the mental status examination. So take note that although nauna kong ituro sa inyo yung manual motor testing as well as testing of the different sensory modalities, ang una dapat tinetest is the mental status exam. Why is that? It's because meron siyang implication whether valid yung mga subsequent na testing ninyo. So for example, halimbawa yung patient pala is experiencing hallucinations, hindi yung sensory testing mo, hindi na magiging valid. That's why you have to do this before anything else. Okay. So mental status examination has various categories, no? So, isa-isahin natin yan in the following slides. And hindi sila interchangeable. So, dapat nyo aralin in mental status exam is yung different categories and how do we test for each one of them. So, first, paano ba ang flow of information across the nervous system? But it starts with your different inputs. For the inputs, nandun yung mga different sensory modalities. Diba, nabagitan natin doon yung special versus general sensation. Special, kasama dun yung mga paningin, pandinig, panlasa. Nasa general, dun papasok yung mga iba't ibang aspects ng pandamdam. Diba? Nabanggit natin yung dalawang pathways na inaral natin dun, spinothalamic tract and dorsal column medial lemniscal pathway. So from that, aakyat siya to our cerebral cortex, right? So processing in the cerebral cortex. And so kasama dyan sa processing, integration. Ano ba yung magiging decision ng ating brain kung ano yung dapat na proper action. And ang output, dyan naman yung motor system. Huh? Ano yung pathway dyan? The corticospinal tract. Okay. So nasa gitna yung processing. And ito yung affected ng mental status exam as well as the higher cortical functions. Okay. So, ano may titingnan sa mental status examination? So, in general, you have to observe these things. Pero, take note na kahit sa simula pa lang, pinapansin mo na itong tatlong factors na to or tatlong aspects na ito, so dulo mo pa siya i-report. So, first is, does the patient have a normal stream of talk and normal language functioning? Ano yung mga pwedeng abnormal types of stream of talk? So, pwedeng rapid, so ang bilis niya magsalita, and pressured. Magkaiba yung rapid sa pressured. Pag pressured speech, yun yung hindi mo na ma-interrupt despite your attempts, no? Sino yung mga merong rapid and pressured speech? Pwede pumasok dyan yung mga merong mga bipolar disorder when they are in their manic phase. Pwede rin naman yung nakatik na stimulants, for example, nag-shabu or nag-cocaine, no? So, yan. So, aside from that, ang kabaligtaran naman nun, pwede maging slow or non-spontaneous yung speech. For example, yung mga may Parkinson's disease, sila, paputol-putol, hindi sila makapagsalita ng mabilis. And of course, nabanggit ko na rin sa inyo, pag meron cerebellar dysfunction, pwede silang merong dysarthria or scanning speech. So that's for stream of talk. Next, note the patient's general appearance, attitude, and behavior. So, ano yung possible findings there? The patient may be normal, of course, or hyperactive, or quiet. Lastly, the patient's emotional status. Di ba ang emotional status, we could divide it into two, mood versus affect. So, mood is the longer na duration ng emotions ng patient. For example, kung depressed ba siya, di ba, that will take a long time, pwedeng 6 months or more. In contrast, affect is the short-term na display of emotions of the patient. So, ano mga possible na abnormal na affect? So, pwedeng euphoric, sobrang saya. For example nga, manic or nakatik ng stimulants. Pwede rin naman, on the other hand, yung kabaligtaran. So, pwedeng flat affect. Flat affect meaning wala nang any facial expressions or display of emotions yung patient. So, that's it in general for the first part of the mental status exam. Next, let's talk about thought process and content, specifically illusions, hallucinations, and delusions. Magkakaiba yun, ha? So, let's look at the differences between them. Illusions are perceptive disturbances with stimulus. In other words, ang illusion, mayroong basis sa reality. Halimbawa, yung patient nakakita ng kurtinang itim. Tapos, ang pagkakaintindi niya doon ay isa siyang babaeng nakaitim. That's an illusion. Paano mo elicit yan sa patient? Ask the patient. Meron po ba kayong nakikita o naririnig na iba ang pagkakaunawa ng ibang tao? That's an illusion. Next would be hallucinations. Hallucinations are perceptive disturbances with no stimulus. In other words, wala nang basis sa reality. So for example, yung patient nakakita ng buwaya. Kahit wala namang kahit anong object that would suggest na merong buwaya dun sa lugar na yun. That would be a hallucination. So, meron po ba kayong nakikita o naririnig na hindi nakikita o naririnig ng iba? That's a hallucination. Lastly, are delusions. These are fixed beliefs that are not reasonable. So, mas mahirap siyang elicit, possibly. But, marami kasing categories ng delusions. So, one of the more common ones is persecutory delusion. So, pag sinabing persecutory, merong gustong mang-usig sa kanila or merong gustong manakit sa kanila. So, try mo lang. Meron po ba na gustong manakit sa inyo? Meron ba nagpaplano ng masama sa inyo? Tapos kung wala namang basis yon, then that is a delusion. So, pag naka-encounter kayo ng delusions, di ba remember these are false beliefs. Pero, anong dapat response doon? Should you challenge a false belief? In this case, kapag delusion yon, you should not challenge that anymore. Kasi that's a fixed belief. Kahit anong sabihin mo, hindi naman mababago. So, you need to treat the underlying condition of the patient. So, that's it for thought, process, and content. Remember illusions, hallucinations, and delusions. The next category of the mental status exam is sensorium. So first, how are we going to test for the level of consciousness of the patient? Observe mo lang. So halimbawa, gising yung pasyente, nakadilat ang mata, tapos binati ka pa, good morning doc, ano yung level of consciousness nun? Then the patient is awake. Halimbawa, nakapikit, tutulog-tulog. Pero tapikin mo lang, tawagin mo lang yung pangalan, gumigising na, then the patient is just drowsy. In contrast, pag yung patient, kailangan mong mag-inflict ng pain para magising. Halimbawa, mag-apply ka ng topic, squeeze mo yung shoulder ng patient. Kunyari, gisingin mo, sir, kumusta na po kayo? Tapos kailangan panlakasan yung boses mo para maintindihan ka. Then the patient is stuporous. So noon ang ginagawa, sternal pressure. So parang dinidibdiban mo yung pasyente. However, hindi siya masyadong ginagawa ngayon because it doesn't appear humane. So ang gagawin mo lang, pipisilin mo yung balikat. No? So awake, drowsy, stuporous, and finally, kapag even despite painful stimulus, hindi nagigising, that is a coma. No? So assess the patient's level of consciousness. Next, you check for the patient's attention. Paano siya ginagawa? You do serial 7 subtraction. Sabihin mo sa patient, sir, 100 minus 7. Sagot niya, 100 minus 7, 93. Okay. Sige, minus 7 nga po ulit. Minus 7, 86, minus 7, minus 7, minus 7. Do it 5 times. No? So, kung nagawa niya yun, then the patient has an appropriate level of attention. Kapag wala, then the patient has inattention. Next, you check for orientation. Sa medicine, we test for the patient's orientation with regards to time, person, and place. So, paano mo yung tatanungin? Sir, alam niyo po ba kung anong petsa ngayon? Pag sinagot ng patient, October 23, 2024. Tapos sinagot pa niya, Thursday. Then that's okay. The patient is oriented to time. Pag mayroong malit in any one of those, then the patient is disoriented with regards to either day of the week, month, or year. How are you going to test for the patient's orientation with regards to person? Kung halimbawa, nandun yung kanyang bantay. Ask mo, sir, kaano-ano niyo po ito? Sabi niya, anak ko po. Pwedeng tama yung sagot niya, di ba? Pero confirm mo dun sa bantay. Kayo nga po ba talaga yung anak? Pero kung hindi pa yun yung anak niya, halimbawa kapatid niya, then the patient is disoriented to person. Lastly, tanungin mo yung patient, alam niyo po ba kung nasan tayo ngayon? Sinagot niya, first floor, ward 5, PGH, Ermita, Manila. Then the patient is oriented with regards to place. Otherwise, you note kung saan siya disoriented, no? That's it for testing sensorium. Next, we're going to check for memory, and there are various types of memory. So it could be immediate, recent, or remote memory. So how are you going to test for this? So you tell your patient, meron po akong 3 bagay na papatandaan sa inyo. Mangga, mesa, barya. Mangga, mesa, barya. Pwede niyo po bang ulitin? So kapag naulit agad ng pasyente, pag kaya niyang ulitin mangga, mesa, barya, then the patient has good immediate memory. Then later on, towards the end of your physical examination, tanungin niyo ulit yung pasyente, naalala niyo po ba yung 3 bagay na pinatandaan ko sa inyo? Pag naalala yun ng patient after a delay of 5 minutes or more, then the patient has good recent memory. How are you going to test for remote memory? So ask your patient, kailan po bang birthday ninyo? Saan po ba kayo huling nag-aral? Ganyan. Next, you check for the patient's fund of information. Tatanong kayo ng recent na balita. So siguro kung ngayon natin siya tatanong sa patient, nabalitaan niyo po ba kung ano yung binagyo ngayon na lugar? So siguro sasagot nila, Bicol. No? Kaya naman, you could ask the patient, nalala niyo po ba kung sino yung mga presidente ng Pilipinas? Pwede niyo po bang ilista? Simula sa presidente natin ngayon. So sagot niya dapat is Bongbong Marcos, Duterte, Noynoy Aquino, Gloria Arroyo, Erap, Ramos, Cory Aquino, Marcos, and then Diosdado Macapagal. Then next, you test for insight, judgment, planning, and abstract thinking. So for insight, you ask the patient, ano po ba ang pagkakaintindi ninyo tungkol sa kondisyon ninyo? Ano po sa tingin niyo kung gagaling pa ba kayo o hindi na? So for example, you ask that sa patient na may dementia, no? Kapag sagot niya, normal naman po ako, wala naman po ako sakit talaga. Hindi ko alam ba't nandito ako. Then the patient has poor insight regarding their illness. Pag naman sinagot niya, napapansin ko nga po, humihina na yung memorya ko. Minsan, hindi ko na maalala kung ano yung gagawin ko sa lugar na yun, sa kwarto na yun. But then the patient has good insight. Yun. So, that's insight. Next is judgment. Halimbawa, nagising kayo sa gabi, and then may nakita kayong sunog sa gilid ng kwarto ninyo, anong gagawin ninyo? So, anong tamang sagot dapat ng pasyente? Dapat tatakbo, hihingi ng tulong, no? So, kapag mga sobrang kakaiba na yung sagot, doon yung sasabihin na the patient has poor judgment. Kung halimbawa sagot niya, tatakbo ko papunta dun sa sunog. Kahit alam kong hindi ko kayang apulahin yung apoy. That's poor judgment. So, for planning as a patient, ano pong plano ninyo sa future? Pagkalabas niyo dito sa ospital, halimbawa ma-discharge na kayo, anong gagawin ninyo? Lastly, abstract thinking, papa-interpret niyo sa kanya isang kasabihan. For example, ano po ang pagkakaintindi niyo sa kasabihang, aanhin pa ang damo kung patay na ang kabayo? So, anything is acceptable as long as hindi masyadong weird or strange or out of this world yung sagot ng pasyente. So, after fund of information and insight judgment planning, abstract thinking, it tests for calculation. Diba? Kung mapapansin yung calculation, under na rin siya ng attention. So yung serial subtraction is testing for both calculation and attention. So, yung attention na to, pwedeng iba yung ipang test nyo dito. Pwede yung ipang test nyo dito is spelling. So, halimbawa, you ask the patient to spell nyo nga pong mundo. So, spell ng patient, M-U-N-D-O. Pabaliktad naman po, O-D-N-U-M. Okay. So, there are two ways to test for attention, not just serial subtraction. Next, let's discuss higher cortical functions. Bakit siya tinawag na cortical functions? Because may kinalaman siya sa cerebral cortex. So, let's start with the aphasias. Aphasias means problems with understanding or speaking. So, ano yung pinagkaiba nila? Kasi I would like you to remember your neuroanatomy. For example, ito yung brain. Yan. So, ito yung anterior, posterior, superior, and inferior. Diba, meron tayong central sulcus or the fissure of Rolando. Divides the brain into two. So, ang nasa harapan responsible for motor, sa likod yung sensation. So, halimbawa, merong sinabi sa'yo, tapos gusto mong maintindihan, what's the part of the brain responsible for language comprehension? It's Wernicke's area. Located in Brodmann area, 21. Here in your temporal lobe. So, nasa likod, di ba? Ng central sulcus. In contrast, pag gusto mo mga sagutin yung tanong sa'yo. So, ang responsible for speaking is nandito sa motor part. Here in your frontal lobe, specifically, Broca's area, Brodmann area, 44 or 45. Tapos they are connected together. Yan. So, halimbawa, ang stroke mo ay tinamaan ang Brodmann area 21 or Wernicke's area. You're going to have problems with comprehension, right? And that's called receptive aphasia. Pag tinamaan naman ay nasa frontal lobe, specifically your Broca's area or Brodmann area 44 and 45, you're going to have expressive aphasia. Naiintindihan mo yung tanong, pero hindi mo masagot. Pag ang problem is yung conducting fibers in between them, you're going to have what's called conduction aphasia. And kapag meron kang conduction aphasia, you're unable to repeat words, no? So mamaya meron tayong test for repetition. So, pag lahat naman yan affected, all three, then that's called a global aphasia. Okay. So, we're going to test your patient for that. So, for comprehension, you ask the patient to do simple commands. For example, tayo nga po kayo. So, hindi niya maintindihan yun, then there's a problem with possibly sa Brodmann area 21. Next is speech fluency. Halimbawa may sagot siya, sabihin nyo lang, expound nyo nga po, explain nyo nga po further. Pag di niya ma-express yung sarili niya, then there's problem with speech fluency. For content, you're going to check for any neologisms. Ano ba ang neologisms? Neologisms are new words. Kaya neo for new and logism, logos for word. And yung mga halimbawa, nag-invento siya ng bagong word for a certain object. Yun. So, magagawa nyo lang yun kapag you're in the context of a natural patient na, no? So, paano naman for naming objects? So, pakita kayo ng isang bagay, halimbawa ito, ano pong tawag dito? Pag nagsagot niya ng tama, pen, then the patient is able to name objects. O syempre, kung meron kayong watch or ring, pwede yan. Kung wala kayong suot na ganun, pwede rin stethoscope or whatever object dun sa examination room. So anong problem kapag hindi unable to name yung patient? That's called an anomia, no? Inability to name objects. Then lastly, how are we going to test for repetition? Sabihin lang sa patient, gayahin nyo nga pa sabihin ko, wala nang ngunit, subalit, datapwat. O kaya naman, wala nang pero-pero pa. Wala nang pero-pero pa. So if the patient is able to repeat that phrase, then possibly wala namang problem sa kanyang conduction between Broca's and Wernicke's area. Okay? Next, we have to test for the Gerstmann syndrome. What's the Gerstmann syndrome? It's a condition involving 4 different components such as agraphia, finger agnosia, right-left disorientation, and acalculia. Ano ba yung part ng brain na affected kapag mayroong Gerstmann syndrome? The affected part is the dominant angular gyrus. So where's the location of the angular gyrus? It's near the boundary between the temporal and parietal lobes. So between the temporal and parietal lobes. And in the human population, ano bang mas common na dominance? Left or right? Ang mas common is left dominance. So most likely affected kapag mayroong Gerstmann syndrome is the left angular gyrus. So how are we going to test for the different components? So, bigyan mo ng papel yung pasyente and ballpen. Sulat nga po kayo ng kahit anong pangungusap. Halimbawa, naisulat ang pangalan niya, ako si Brian. Then the patient has no agraphia because agraphia is the inability to write. Next is finger agnosia. Agnosia is not knowing. A is not, gnosis is knowing. So, finger agnosia means hindi niya alam yung mga daliri niya. So, sabihin mo na sa patient, ano po ito? Hinituturo, hinlalaki, hinliliit. Kapag di niya kayang pangalanan, then the patient has finger agnosia. Then, how we test whether the patient is oriented as to whether what is right or left. So, we give instructions. So, first, you tell your patient, point to your left ear, to your right eye, raise your left hand. No? So, kung kaya niyang gawin yun, hindi siya nalilitos between right and left, then the patient is oriented. And lastly, acalculia. Doon na pong pasok yung serial subtraction. So, madami din test yung serial subtraction. No? Okay. Next, you're going to test for various apraxias. What are apraxias? Apraxias are coordination to perform a motor action. So, apraxias involve coordination to perform motor action. Kapag hindi niya kayang gawin, then the person has apraxia. So, instruct your patient, ilabas nyo nga po ang dila. You're testing for tongue apraxia. Gumawa po ng kamao, testing for hand apraxia. Lakad po kayo doon, balik po kayo dito. That's gait apraxia. Okay. Meron pa tayo ibang types of apraxia. For idiomotor apraxia, we're going to test that by giving this instruction. Ipakita nyo nga po paano magsindi ng kandila o paano magsindi ng sigarilyo gamit ang posporo. So, dapat, ganyan. Next is constructional apraxia. You ask the patient to copy your 2D drawing. So, this time, papakita mo muna sa kanya, no? So, mag-drawing ka, octagon, na intersecting. There, you're testing for constructional apraxia. Paano naman pag 3D na drawing gusto mo ipagaya sa kanya? Ask the patient to copy a drawing of your cube. If the patient is able to do that, then the patient may have visual spatial apraxia. Lastly, sensory inattention. Paano ba yan? Ang tuturo ko sa inyo is the simultaneous cutaneous stimulation. Sabihin mo sa patient, pikit po kayo. Then, tapikin mo yung kanyang left forearm. So, ang instruction lang yung patient nyo na sabihin kung saan nyo siya tinatapik. So, starting sa left, then sa right. Tapos, gawin nyo sabay, no? In a patient with sensory inattention, hindi niya mapapansin yung isa doon, no? So, either right lang or left lang. But otherwise, if normal, dapat syempre, ma-recognize niya na natapik mo siya sa parehong left and right. So we're done with the mental status examination, including testing for the higher cortical functions. Now let's proceed with testing for the different cranial nerves. So diba, we have 12 cranial nerves. So for the purpose of our ASCE, and for the help of, in order to help you remember it as well, I've divided the cranial nerves into 4. So meron tayong mga pure sensory. So lahat papunta lang input towards the brain. Cranial nerve 1, 2, and 8. Meron din tayong tatlo related to the movement of the eyes. 3, 4, and 6. Then meron tayong mga mixed. Ibig sabihin, meron siyang both motor and sensory component. That includes 5, 7, 9, and 10. Lastly, we have the pure motor, 11 and 12. Isa-isahin natin siya. So let's review from your neuroanatomy the 12 cranial nerves. Cranial nerve 1 is olfactory, responsible for our sense of smell. Cranial nerve 2 is the optic nerve, responsible for our sense of sight. Then 3 is oculomotor, 4 is trochlear, 5 is trigeminal, and 6 is abducens or abducent. So yung oculomotor, trochlear, and abducens are responsible for the extraocular movement of the muscles of the eyes. The trigeminal nerve, or cranial nerve 5, is mixed, no? So both sensory and motor. Cranial nerve 7 is the facial nerve, 8 is the vestibulocochlear, or auditory nerve, responsible for hearing and balance. Cranial nerve 9 is glossopharyngeal, 10 is vagus, 11 is spinal or accessory. Kasi meron siyang fibers na nanggaling sa cervical spine, umakyat, papunta sa brain, tapos lalabas ulit. 12 is hypoglossal, responsible for the movements of the tongue. Let's start with the pure sensory cranial nerves, cranial nerve 1, 2, and 8. So we're going to test for the patient's sense of smell. Kung informal lang naman na testing, pwede mo nang gamitin ko ano man yung nasa bedside. For example, di ba usually pag may sakit yung pasyente, merong mag-iwan ng fruits or flowers, pwede mo nang ipaamoy yun sa patient. However, if you're doing it formally, as part of your official physical examination, you have to use yung smells na nandoon sa yung opaque or amber bottle. So ano ba yung mga pwede mong ipaamoy sa patient? You could use various odorants, pero siguro pinakamagagamit nyo dito would be coffee. Alternatively, you could use cigarette or perfume. Ano lang ang bawal? Ang bawal lang is ammonia because it is an irritant and pwedeng ma-test niya na inadvertently yung cranial nerve 5. No? So, paano gagawin? Siyempre, papikitin nyo yung pasyente, sabihin nyo nga po kung ano naamoy nyo, then, paamoy mo sa kanila yung odorant. Also, make sure to test one nostril at a time kasi magkaiba ang differentials kung unilateral or bilateral na cranial nerve 1 ang affected. Cranial nerve 1 lang i-discuss natin na pure sensory cranial nerve. Kasi yun hindi pa natin naaral. Yung 2 naman kasi, kasama niya sa examination of the eye. Diba? Yung visual acuity testing at yung other parts of the 5-point physical examination. 5-point ocular examination. And then yung cranial nerve 8 naman, nandun siya sa physical examination of the ears. So, hindi natin siya i-discuss. Now, let's move on to the pure motor cranial nerves. So, yung pure motor, meron responsible for the extraocular muscle movement of the eyes. 3, 4, and 6. And then yung spinal accessory or 11 and 12. So 3, 4, and 6 are responsible for extraocular muscle movement. However, before you proceed with that, you have to do first the pupillary light reflex. Why? Because cranial nerve 3 is a component of the pupillary light reflex. So, paano ba ang pupillary light reflex? So, halimbawa, you shine a light on my right eye. So, the afferent pathway in the pupillary light reflex is cranial nerve 2 or the optic nerve. So, dapat mo itong maliwanag na shine sa right eye mo. But the efferent arc is the cranial nerve 3. So, pag mag-shine ka ng light in my right eye, ang magko-constrict ng pupils both right and left, the cranial nerve 3. So, how are you going to do it to your patient? So, i-check mo muna each pupil, no? Swing your flashlight to each eye, then you do the swinging flashlight test. So, what are you going to note? Check the size of the pupil. Dapat, syempre, the pupils are equal. And the pupil should be round. And, of course, when you shine a light, tandaan nyo lang that dapat the pupils will constrict in order to limit the amount of light entering into the eye. So, dapat the pupil should be equal, round, and briskly reactive to light. So, later on, tuturo ko how to test for accommodation. Doon na yun sa kasama niya ang extraocular muscle movement testing. Let's look at this example. So, sinwing yung flashlight to the left eye and then to the right eye. Pero take note na kapag siniswing to the left eye, nagdadilate instead of nagko-constrict. So, dapat mag-constrict whether mag-swing man sa left or right eye. So kapag inilawan ang right pupil and then nag-constrict yung right pupil, that's called a direct response. Kapag naman inilawan yung right pupil pero ang nag-constrict is yung left pupil, that's called a consensual response. So how do you interpret your findings for this examination? So kapag ang inilawan mo is the right eye and hindi nag-respond both yung right eye and yung left eye, then that's a problem with the right cranial nerve 2. However, pag naman inilawan mo yung right eye and then hindi nag-constrict yung right eye pero nag-constrict yung left eye, then ang problem doon is the right cranial nerve 3. Aside from the response to light, di ba tinetest yung size ng pupil? Kapag hindi pantay, ang size ng left and right pupil, ang tawag doon is anisocoria. Tapos, pag sinabing left anisocoria, it means na mas malaki ang left pupil. Oh, so it's named after the pupil that is bigger. So question, possible ba na bulag yung patient but briskly active pa rin yung pupils? Pwede actually. So it's possible na ang problem is not with the optic nerve but with the processing in the primary visual cortex. So in that case, that's called cortical blindness or occipital blindness. That's it for the pupillary light reflex. Now let's proceed to the motor functions of cranial nerves 3, 4, and 6. Important lang tandaan is that all eye muscles are controlled by cranial nerve 3 except the lateral rectus, which the one responsible is cranial nerve 6 or the abducent nerve. Kaya nga siya abducent kasi it abducts the eye. And the other one is the superior oblique, responsible for intorsion. Because the one responsible for that is cranial nerve 4 or the trochlear nerve. How are you going to test for that? So, harap lang kayo sa patient. So, don't straddle the patient. Remember, side to side yung legs ninyo, pero magkaharap kayo. Then, establish a proprioceptive link, meaning hawakan nyo lang either yung head o kaya naman yung shoulder. Then, instruct the patient. Titig lang po kayo sa harapan. Sundan nyo po itong daliri ko. No? So, nakating kayo sa mata ng patient, pero yung mata niya nandito sa daliri nyo. Then, make an H. No? Then, after that, let your finger approach the patient's nose. Doing that, you're testing for accommodation. When you do that, check if there is any deviation or malalignment in the patient's eyes, whether esotropic or exotropic, and then check if there is any limitation of movement. So, paano mo interpret yun? It depends on kung anong muscle na affected. Remember, most of the eye muscles are supplied by cranial nerve 3 except the lateral rectus, which is supplied by cranial nerve 6 or abducent, and superior oblique or cranial nerve 4 or trochlear nerve. So let's look at this example. So as you can see, the patient's right eye, droopy ang eyelids, no? It's because the levator palpebrae superioris is also supplied by your cranial nerve 3. So hindi niya may dilat. And then look at the pupils. So yung right eye, persistently down and out. So namamayani yung action ng cranial nerve 6 or abducent nerve as well as the trochlear nerve, no? So down and out. So let's look at another example. This time naman, yung right lateral rectus ang affected. So yan, pinatingin sa kaliwa, naka-move naman, pareho to the left. Pero nung pinatingin sa right, look at the patient's right eye, hindi nag-move to the right, hindi naka-abduct yung kanyang right eye. So as I have mentioned, at the end of your extraocular muscle movement testing, lalapit mo yung daliri mo to the patient's nose. And what should happen during accommodation, the patient's eyes or pupils should converge, so maduduling, and the pupils should constrict. So kapag normal lahat yun, yung pupillar light reflex, EOM movement testing, and accommodation reflex, just report to the examiner. The patient has normal direct light reflex and concessional response, normal swinging light test, and normal accommodation reflex. Now let's look at two pure motor cranial nerves, cranial nerve 11 and cranial nerve 12. So cranial nerve 11 is also known as the spinal nerve or the accessory nerve. Why? Because there are accessory fibers coming from the cervical spine. Papasok ulit sa brain, then saka lalabas ulit as the cranial nerve 11. Cranial nerve 11 innervates two sets of muscles, the trapezius here in our shoulder and the sternocleidomastoid. So the trapezius is responsible for shrugging, and while the sternocleidomastoid is responsible for turning the head laterally on the opposite side. So saan ba sternocleidomastoid natin? So from the name itself, it comes from the meeting point of the sternum and the clavicle here. Then it goes to the back of your ear, the mastoid process. Okay? So paano mo siya iti-test? Somewhat similar lang din dun sa motor strength testing natin. So you ask the patient to move the muscle against resistance. So sabihin niyo lang sa patient, gayahin niyo po ako, subukan ko po kayong labanan, wag niyo po ako hayaang manalo. So sa trapezius, straightforward lang naman. So if you look at this figure sa my lowest part, sa bottom part, you just try to resist the patient's attempts to elevate their shoulder. Tapos, sternocleidomastoid, as I have mentioned, take note na opposite na sternocleidomastoid yung responsible for turning doon sa direction na. So, for example, if you look here sa upper left, the patient is looking to their left. Tapos, you place one hand on their shoulder and the other hand on their cheek. So, when the patient is looking to their left, the muscle you're testing is the sternocleidomastoid on the right. Another pure motor cranial nerve is the hypoglossal nerve. So kung ang cranial nerve 11 or spinal nerve is responsible for innervating the trapezius and the sternocleidomastoid, the hypoglossal nerve is responsible for innervating the intrinsic muscles of the tongue. So each cranial nerve 12, the left and the right, innervates one half of the tongue. So the left half of the tongue is innervated by the left cranial nerve 12, while the right half of the tongue is innervated by the right cranial nerve 12. How are you going to perform the physical examination for this cranial nerve? First, you do inspection. So, ask the patient to stick out their tongue and then check kung meron bang tongue atrophy. So, lumiit ba yung kanyang dila? Or is there any fasciculation? If you remember our definition of fasciculations, they are involuntary movements of the muscle. Okay? Tapos, of course, ask the patient to stick out their tongue straight out of their mouth. So, kapag nag-deviate to the left, ibig sabihin, mas mahina yung side na yun. No? So take note kasi magkaiba yung observation natin kapag sa dila and yung sa uvula mamaya sa cranial nerve 9 and 10. It's also possible to check the motor strength of the intrinsic muscles of the tongue. So in order to do that, you ask the patient to put their tongue inside their cheek while the examiner is going to try to push against it. we look at these two figures, so in the left, we're testing whether there's any deviation. Also, we're also inspecting for any atrophy or fasciculations. So dito nailabas naman yung dila straight out. Pero kung halimbawa mag-deviate to the left, then ang problem is on the left cranial nerve 12. This figure on the right, the examiner is testing the motor strength of the tongue. So if we look at this example, the tongue is deviated to the patient's left. In other words, then the left cranial nerve 12 is affected. This figure on the left shows tongue atrophy. So sinusubukan niya ilabas yung dila. Pero nandun lang sa loob, no? Hindi niya mailabas. And also this figure on the right shows fasciculations. If you would see here, okay, so may gitna ng tongue, it's moving involuntarily. So tapos na tayo sa pure sensory nerve, the olfactory nerve, and the pure motor nerves, cranial nerves 11 and 12. Now let's move to the mixed cranial nerves. So this time, meron silang motor aspect and meron din silang sensory na aspect. So it involves trigeminal nerve or cranial nerve 5, facial nerve or cranial nerve 7, glossopharyngeal nerve or cranial nerve 9, and the vagus nerve or cranial nerve 10. So for cranial nerve 5 or the trigeminal nerve, our physical examinations could be divided into three. The corneal reflex or the corneal blink reflex, light touch using cotton, and pain using a tongue depressor. Okay, so sensory testing lang yun. Remember, the trigeminal nerve is a mixed nerve. However, it's a primarily sensory nerve. Kasi, the trigeminal nerve has three divisions, V1, V2, and V3. V1 is ophthalmic, V2 is maxillary, while V3 is mandibular. So out of those three, isa lang yung merong motor component, and that is V3. No? So, V1, V2, and V3 are responsible for the facial sensation. Yung V3 lang has additional motor action on the muscles of mastication, the muscles required for chewing. So first, what's the corneal reflex, also known as the corneal blink reflex. So remember, yung mga reflex natin, meron yung purpose. So for example, kung ang pupillary light reflex, ang purpose is to limit the amount of light entering the eye, the corneal reflex is there to protect your eye from abrasions or from foreign bodies. Tapos, remember, yung reflex arc ng pupillary reflex, merong afferent na cranial nerve 2 and efferent na cranial nerve 3. Dito naman sa corneal blink reflex, ang afferent is cranial nerve 5, specifically the V1 branch, and the efferent is cranial nerve 7. So actually, it makes sense, right? Kasi cranial nerve 5 is responsible for the sensation in the face, while cranial nerve 7 is responsible for moving the muscles of the face. You would remember, yung muscle responsible for forcefully closing the eyes is the orbicularis oculi. And what innervates the orbicularis oculi? It's cranial nerve 7 or the facial nerve. So how would you test for the corneal blink reflex? You take a wisp of cotton and then ibibilit nyo lang ng konti yung kanyang dulo, no? Para patusok siya. And then you ask the patient to look away from one side. So for example, you're asking the patient to look to their left. So yung cotton, i-approach mo from the right side, no? Sa opposite side. And then, ano dapat yung makita mong finding? Dapat both eyes should close. So meron din siyang direct and consensual na response. Okay? Tapos, when you bring the cotton wool close to their eyes, ano yung target mo? Ang target dyan is the limbus. Kung naalala nyo yung anatomy of the eye from our lecture a few weeks ago, the limbus is the border between the cornea and the sclera. No? So yung boundary between sa itim ng mata and yung puti ng mata. So in this figure, the patient is asked to look on their right while yung cotton is brought in from the left. Tapos, dahan-dahan lang na huwag biglaan. Kasi pag biglaan, it could be just a startle reflex. Baka magulat lang yung pasyente. So, dapat, ang magti-trigger ng pagpikit ng mata is yung pagdikit ng cotton on the limbus of the eye. After testing for the corneal blink reflex, next we test the sensation of the three divisions of the trigeminal nerve. So, di ba, V1, ophthalmic, V2, maxillary, and V3, mandibular. Tapos, meron tayong two types na ito test, light touch and sharp or pain. So, ang testing dito is katulad lang din sa sensory testing na nandun sa lecture natin sa MSK last week. So, for light touch, you take a tip of cotton wool and then apply it on 3 areas corresponding to V1, V2, and V3. Contrast for sharp pain naman, you get a sharp object. Ang sharp object na ginagamit natin, if you would remember, is a broken tongue depressor. No? So, you ask the patient to close their eyes. Tapos, ask nyo, ito po, ipakita nyo muna pala sa kanila, no? Kung matulis o mapurol. Tapos, papikitin yung patient. So, kung ito 100%, ito ilang percent. Kung ito 100%, ito ilang percent. And you do that for all of the divisions of the trigeminal nerve. So, let's just quickly review the anatomy. So, V1 sa buong forehead, including the bridge of the nose, as well as the tip of the nose, but not the ala of the nose. So, yung ala of the nose, ang responsible doon is already V2 or the maxillary branch. So, the maxillary branch covers the medial aspect of the cheek. So, sa V3, it involves your chin as well as yung lateral aspect of the chin. However, ang V3, hindi niya kinocover yung angle of the mandible. Iba na to. Kasi ang responsible na dito is the great auricular nerve, which is supplied by vertebral levels na C2 to C3. No? So, hindi na cranial nerve ang responsible dito. So, dapat ang test nyo, dito lang, hanggang dito. 1, V2, and V3. So we're done with the sensory component. Now let's go to the motor component, specifically your muscles of mastication. Ano nga ulit yung apat na muscles na yon? The temporalis, here, the masseter, here on your cheeks, and the medial and lateral pterygoids, responsible for moving your jaw from side to side. Or how are you going to examine the motor component of the trigeminal nerve? So first, you do inspection. So saan nga ba yung temporalis? Diba it's here? So, tinan nyo kung nakalubog ba siya. If yes, it's possibly temporal atrophy, temporalis muscle atrophy. Next, you ask the patient to do teeth clenching. Sabihin nyo sa patient, so, kagat nga po kayo na madiin. Tapos, na ipapalpate mo is the temporalis here and the masseter here. No? Next, you ask the patient to open their mouth widely. So, kapag nag-deviate siya to one side, then that means that is the weaker side. So, ang possibly affected doon is the masseter and the pterygoid muscles. Lastly, you ask the patient to move their jaw laterally. O ganito. And try mo ang labanan. Huh? So, when you're doing that, you're testing the medial and lateral pterygoids. So, in this example, if you look here sa temporal area ng patient, there's muscle atrophy. So we're done with cranial nerve 5. Diba? Kung ang cranial nerve 5 is mixed but primarily sensory, ang facial nerve naman is mixed but primarily motor. It's important for doing facial expressions. In examining the function of cranial nerve 7, first you do inspection. So one of the more common findings na makita nyo sa chart would be nasolabial folds. No? So if nakalagay sa chart asymmetric nasolabial folds, it means that possible na merong cranial nerve 7 palsy. So, saan ba yung nasolabial folds is here, right? Yan. So, also you look at the amount of wrinkles on their forehead. Dapat symmetrical yan. And of course, the corners of the mouth should be at the same height kapag neutral naman yung position ng face ng patient. So, if hindi kayo sure whether bagong asymmetry lang ba siya or old na, ask the patient to show their picture. Next, you test the individual muscles which are innervated by cranial nerve 7. So, sabihin lang sa patient, gayahin niyo po ako. So, taas niyo yung kilay niyo. So, when you do that, you're testing the frontalis. Isara ang mata forcefully. You're testing for the orbicularis oculi. Ask the patient to smile. So, ang responsible dyan, kapag yung genuine smile, the zygomatic muscles. Pag naman yung fake smile, kumbaga side to side lang, that's the risorius muscle. Then, how do you check the platysma? Ask the patient to tighten their neck. So in the figure here in the upper left, we are testing the frontalis muscle. Here in the second figure, in the upper right, we're testing the strength of the orbicularis oculi. Take note na sinusubukan ding i-open, no? And then lastly, is yung dito sa lower right is the yung smile, no? Either Risorius or the Zygomaticus major or minor. So here, ang check naman is yung nasolabial fold, kung symmetrical ba or not. So, kung maalala ninyo, yung path ng facial nerve, dumadaan siya sa belly ng parotid gland. No? So, mahirap siyang i-dissect actually. And meron siyang 5 branches. Starting from the uppermost is the temporal, followed by zygomatic, buccal, mandibular, and then the cervical branch. Another important point is that in interpreting the findings in the cranial nerve 7 examination, you have to differentiate between a central and a peripheral cranial nerve 7 lesion. So pag sinabing central lesion, it affects only the upper motor neuron. Pag peripheral lesion naman, it affects the lower motor neuron. So ganito kasi yan. So the muscles in the forehead are innervated by upper motor neurons from both left and right side. No? While this lower half, ang nag-innervate lang is yung lower motor neuron. Sa side na yon, and upper motor neuron sa side na yon. No? So kumbaga, dito, dalawang upper motor neuron nag-innervate. Dito, isa lang. Tig-isa lang. No? So, anong implications nun? So, for example, if you have a central cranial nerve 7 lesion here on the right, since meron pa rin namang action, no, yung cranial nerve 7 dito sa left side, pwede mo pa rin i-elevate yung forehead mo. So, ang affected lang is yung lower 1/4 kapag central lesion. In contrast, kapag peripheral lesion, the entire half is affected. No? So, in order to demonstrate that, let's look at this patient. So, instruction sa kanya, itaas ang kilay. So, ang naitataas sila sa kanan. So, anong lesion to? This affects the left cranial nerve 7. Tapos, is this peripheral or is this central? So, check yung forehead. So, dito, mas nakababa yung angle of the mouse nyo sa left side. So, alam natin affected talaga yung lower half, no? Pero dito sa upper half, since affected din siya, then this is a peripheral lesion. Kasi remember, kapag peripheral, affected ang entire half. Kapag central lesion, lower 1/4 lang. So, this is the same patient, but this time, pinapakita lang na hindi na sumasara yung mata dito sa left side. No? That's because hindi niya ma-move ang kanyang orbicularis oculi. So, in contrast sa peripheral lesion, as you can see here sa patient na meron central lesion, walang problem sa forehead. No? So, pantay naman na naiangat yung kanyang eyebrows. However, if you look here, kapag pinangiti na yung patient, mas shallow yung nasolabial fold sa left. So, this is a central cranial nerve 7 lesion. Also, take note na kapag central lesion, opposite, no? So, kapag shallow ang left nasolabial fold, ang may problem is the right na upper motor neuron ng cranial nerve 7. So, we're done testing for the motor part of cranial nerve 7. Now, how we're going to test for the sensory component of cranial nerve 7. Cranial nerve 7 is responsible for carrying taste sensations from the anterior 2/3 of the tongue. Yung part na in front of the sulcus terminalis. So, in order to do that, well, doon na pumapasok yung sugar or salt na nandun sa opaque bottles niya. No? So, paano iti-test? Sabihin lang sa patient, ma'am, pikit po kayo, meron po akong ilalagay, sabihin niyo po sa akin kung matamis o maalat, kung asukal o asin. So, nakapikit yung pasyente and then place the substance on their tongue. So, for the last set of cranial nerves, you have cranial nerves 9 and 10. Cranial nerve 9 is also known as the glossopharyngeal nerve, while cranial nerve 10 is also known as the vagus nerve. So, cranial nerves 9 and 10 are actually tested together. However, take note na anatomically, syempre magkaiba yung function nila. If you would remember, yung mga pharyngeal arches natin, no, from anatomy, so bronchial arch 1, ang nag-innervate doon is the trigeminal nerve or cranial nerve 5. For pharyngeal arch 2, ang nag-innervate doon is cranial nerve 7 or the facial nerve. For pharyngeal arch 3, ang nag-innervate doon is the glossopharyngeal nerve, while for pharyngeal arches 4 and 6, ang innervate doon is the vagal nerve or cranial nerve 10. Okay? Sige. So, ano ba yung functions ng glossopharyngeal nerve? So, sa sensory, siya yung responsible for the sensation in the posterior one-third of the tongue. Tapos, ang motor niya isa lang is the stylopharyngeus. So, medyo confusing yung innervation of the tongue, right? So, tandaan nyo lang na tatlong magkakaiba yun, no? So, motor, general sensation, and special sensation or taste. Let's start with motor. Sa motor, nasabi natin na responsible for moving the tongue mostly is the hypoglossal nerve or cranial nerve 12. Kasi the cranial nerve 12 innervates all the intrinsic muscles as well as most of the extrinsic muscles of the tongue. Ang only exception lang is that yung palatoglossus, the extrinsic muscle of the tongue, the palatoglossus, is innervated by the cranial nerve 10 or the vagus nerve. Next naman, ang magkaiba is yung special sensation, which is taste, and general sensation, which is touch sensation. So, for that, magkaiba yung nasa anterior 2/3 and sa posterior 1/3. Ang responsible sa posterior 1/3, both na taste and touch sensation is cranial nerve 9 or the glossopharyngeal nerve. So, sa anterior 2/3, magkaiba yung responsible for taste and yung responsible for touch. Kasi, ang responsible for the touch sensation sa anterior 2/3 of the tongue is the lingual nerve, which is a branch of your trigeminal nerve. No? Touch sensation of anterior 2/3 of the tongue. Lingual nerve, a branch of your trigeminal nerve. In contrast, ang responsible for taste sensation in anterior 2/3 of the tongue is your chorda tympani, which is part of your cranial nerve 7 or facial nerve. Okay, so don't be confused, no? Okay, so, yun. So, as I have mentioned, yung cranial nerve 10 or vagus nerve, ang inervate na yung mga derivatives ng pharyngeal arches 4 and 6. So, it involves itong area ng tympanic membrane, part of the external auditory canal, and part of the external ear. So, another confusing pa yan, no? But you just have to review your anatomy kung aling part ng ear canal and aling part ng external ear yung inervate ng vagus nerve. And so, sa motor part naman, it innervates most of the muscles of the palate, pharynx, and larynx. So how we're going to test these cranial nerves, 9 and 10. So we could do phonation. So we could ask the patient to say ka, ka, ka. So emphasis on the ka, yung K na sound. No? So if you would notice, now when you do that sound, yung tongue natin, yung back of our tongue is touching the soft palate. No? So it's called a velar consonant sa linguistics. So kapag meron kang problem with your cranial nerves 9 and 10, you couldn't make that sound properly. So another thing to check is swallowing or the gag reflex. So in practice actually, observe mo na lang yung patient mo, no? Tapos tatanungin mo siya whether naghihirapan ba siyang lumunok. Halimbawa, kapag uminom siya ng tubig, nasasamid siya. Kasi remember, the afferent cranial nerve of the gag reflex is cranial nerve 9 and the efferent is cranial nerve 10. So, however, just so alam nyo theoretically how to induce the gag reflex, you use your tongue depressor and then you touch the pillars of the tonsils. Okay? However, hindi na siya ginagawa because it's medyo inhumane, no? Na parang mapapadual yung pasyente. So here, let's look at some example findings. So here, pinag-A yung pasyente, no? So as you could see, yung uvula naka-point towards the patient's right. So, ang reason for that is it's possible na weak yung left side, yung muscles on the left side of the pharynx. Okay? So, take note na kung saang side mas weak, opposite yung nagpo-point yung uvula. So, magkaiba yun, no? Compared dun sa tongue. So, if you remember, kung saan naka-point yung tongue, so saang side nagde-deviate yung tongue, dun siya weaker. In contrast, yung uvula, magpo-point siya dun sa stronger na side. And that's it, no? So, kung meron pa kayong any questions, don't hesitate to message. So, about the cranial nerves. So, yun. I hope you learned a lot with this recording.